broadcasting live 4 days a week worldwide
from the sunny beaches of Southern California.
This is ExtremeHealthRadio.com.
This is David Avocado Wolf of DavidWolf.com, and you are listening to Justin and Kate on Extreme Health Radio.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us on this episode of Extreme Health Radio. Thank you so much for being on the air and listening live. I apologize we're a few minutes late, but sometimes that's what happens when you connect to guests all over the world. Technology these days. So I appreciate you guys holding on for the live show. This is episode 234, and this is Wednesday, for reference, Wednesday, April 16th, 2014, the day after tax day. And of all things, my wife, beautiful co-host and wife Kate, is not going to be available for today's show. She's at jury duty, of all things, the day after tax day. So I'll be doing the show. We got a great show. Greg Caton is going to be on talking about his story and some of the products he's working on and what he's up to. He's got lots of great things going on his website. So we'll introduce him in just a moment. Let's see, I just want to let everybody know if you want to join the live show, there's lots of different ways you could do that. You can go to extremehealthradio.com/live and listen live Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And you can join the chat room and listen as the show is happening and get your questions answered that way. There's also a voicemail tab that you can send a pre-recorded voicemail straight from your computer, which is pretty cool thing. And we can play that to our guests on the air. So that's a great way to join the show. And then you can also email Justin at extremehealthradio.com or Kate, Kate, at extremehealthradio.com and send your questions that way. And I just want to let you know, too, if you would like to support the show and make regular purchases on Amazon, it would be a great thing if you guys would consider doing your purchases on Amazon through our link. That's a great way to support us, and we're so appreciative of people that do that and keep the show free. So it's just a really great thing to do. It's extremehealthradio.com/Amazon. You don't have to buy anything health related, and you can do it as often as you like. And every time you do that, will help keep the show free. And so I am just going to go over to our homepage here, and I'm going to look at our upcoming show schedule. We've got some great guests. I'll just read the next couple here. We got Dr. John Bergman on April 22nd, and he's going to be talking about arthritis, blood sugar issues, cholesterol, heart disease, cancer, just to name a few. He's an incredible guy. Look him up, Dr. John Bergman on YouTube. And then we have Carrie Rivera, and she's doing some really interesting work down in Mexico with healing autistic children using MMS. Pretty interesting lady. She's written a book. She's got a whole website. Been helping lots of people, does lectures. So we're going to get to the bottom of some of those issues, autism, MMS, and see what's going on with her down in Mexico. So a lot of great things going on. And today we have Greg Caton. It's going to be an honor to have him on the show because I've heard about him for many years. I think I originally heard about Greg through Mike Adams of Natural News. And he's down in Ecuador, I believe. I think it's Ecuador. And he's got a few different websites. GregCaton.com, GregCaton, GregCaton.com, altcancer.com, herbhealers.com, which is, I think, a third-party website where his products are sold. I don't think that he owns that, but we'll talk to him about that, as well as Metatopia.org. And he's actually the author of a few different books. Lumen, Food for a New Age, MLM Fraud, which is written in 1991. It was on the corruption of the multi-level marketing industry, and Metatopia, which is a free online book that he has on his website, metatopia.org. And he's down there doing some really great things with herbs and different black salves and lots of different health products. So it's an honor to have him on the show. Thank you so much, Greg, for joining the show today.
Thank you for having me.
So is that correct? You are in Ecuador, is that right?
We are. We live in the Andes, close to 10,000 feet, and this is where we do our herbal and horticulture work.
Yeah, you sound just really great. We were doing a little bit of sound testing before the show, and you sound really, really crisp. Sounds like you're in the studio with us.
Well, that's good. It's not always that It's not always that clear, but maybe we're lucky today.
Yeah, that's great. So let's see. You are south. Are you sort of near the equator, or are you a bit south of the equator?
About 2.5 degrees south.
Okay, so it's pretty much the same temperature there year round, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of people. If you kind of try to compare this to temperate zone conditions, people think, oh my God, 9,000 feet, you must be freezing your rear off. But the truth is that the temperatures in the highlands near the equator are very, very. You don't have this kind of seasonal fluctuation that you do in the temperate zone. So we kind of sit here anywhere between 45 and 80 degrees year round. It doesn't. It's kind of like the Goldilocks temperature of the earth. Never gets that never gets that cold, never gets that hot. It's just right.
Wow, that's great. And so 10,000 feet above sea level, is that correct?
Yep.
Wow. So I've heard a lot of different people say different things. One, I've heard a lot of people talk about, parasites living more close to the equator, but then you're living a little bit higher up, so it's less hot. Do you guys have any parasite issues living higher up like that?
No, I mean, if you study the ethnobotany here, they have a variety of different herbal formulas that they use for parasitic conditions, but that's something you see more commonly like in the Amazonian region, what they call here the Oriente. Up here in the highlands, we just don't have that degree of parasitic conditions or even insects, like mosquitoes. You have very few mosquitoes here.
Wow, that's amazing. And so is there any, I'm just curious about the oxygen levels, and because I know a lot of the people that live the longest tend to live higher up and higher altitudes. Is there anything to that, do you think?
Well, I think if you look at the epidemiology, I think it's pretty hard to deny. Your longest living peoples on the earth tend to live in higher places. And yes, there's less oxygen. At this altitude, we've got about 33% less oxygen than you would at sea level. Mm-hmm. And there may be something to that. One of the theories of aging has to do with the fact that in a manner of speaking, that aging is a form of the body rusting, from excessive oxidative processes. So, and there may be something to that. I do know there's a good friend of mine. He's another expat. He lives in Brazil, Dr. Mark Circus. Uh-huh. I don't know if you've ever interviewed him or not, but he actually has developed quite a theory as to why it is that people at higher altitudes tend to live longer.
Really? What's his thoughts about that?
I know it has to do again with the oxidative processes, but it also has to do with the body at this altitude tends to conserve energy, and there's an adaptation that you go through when you live at a much higher altitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I think that the body the processes tend to slow down.
That's so fascinating. Isn't there a place called, let me think if I get this correct, is it Vilcabamba? Is that anywhere near you?
It's the province just south of us, and
okay.
I have a lot of friends that live there.
Yeah, I hear that's a place where people live really long, and a lot of Americans seem to be going over to that area, don't they?
There's a lot of expats there. I'm not sure that there's a lot of controversy at that. Vilcabamba is not really high Andes. It's in fact the whole Loja. That's part of what's called the Loja region. Mm-hmm. They're more like around 4,000 feet. So it's really, in fact, the people that live in Loja, the capital of that province, don't even consider themselves Andean.
Oh, really?
So it's and there are reports that since that first kind of famous February 1973 issue of National Geographic came out, which kind of put Vilcabamba on the map. As a matter of fact, it's funny. I wrote about Vilcabamba and the reports of people living there extraordinarily long lives, a very high percentage of centenarians. When I wrote Lumen Food for a New Age in 1985, so this is something that I myself have been aware of for nearly 30 years. But I think that's somewhat, I think, played up a bit. Uh-huh. The truth is, you'll find people that live long lives all along the high Andes.
Mm. So fascinating. So how did you get involved with going to Ecuador? When was the first time you went there?
Well, my my case has been somewhat popularized by, as you said, Alex Jones, Mike Adams, and a number of people in the alternative media. They went after me in 2003 under this FDA program called Operation Cure-All. And, I always knew there was a political component to our work because the pharmaceutical companies, and of course this has been documented by countless authors, are basically in the business of trying to squelch competition. I mean, that's simply what large corporations do. But I really, until they came in and destroyed my lab in Louisiana in September of 2003, I really didn't know just how evil it was, just how completely corrupt and evil it was. And I document all of that because it's like a real life, Alice in Wonderland type situation. But in Chapter 3 of Metatopia, again, a free read at metatopia.org, I document what happened to us. But they came in and destroyed our lab, confiscated $500,000 in inventory, put me in prison. I mean, and that was an ordeal that lasted for the better part of 3 years, really. And then to answer your original question, I happen to have a distributor. I had 14 distributors worldwide by the name of Dr. Robert Wickman, who was living in Quito. Quito, of course, is the capital of Ecuador. And his case was very similar to mine. This was a highly successful osteopath practicing in Tucson, and he got majorly railroaded by the FDA in the early 90s, and he decided to move to Ecuador and was very happy at that. By the time I was looking into this, he'd already successfully been living here for 15 years.
What was his last name?
Wickman, Wickman, Dr. Robert Wickman. And he still practices to this day. He still has his practice there in Quito. Wow. In fact, he tells me he's the only licensed osteopath in the country of Ecuador. Isn't that something?
Wow, that's crazy.
Only licensed, yeah. Well, there isn't a call for it here. A lot of people here don't even know what an osteopathic physician is.
I would imagine.
So anyways, as a result of that, we made it, even before thinking of Ecuador, we made a decision that we were going to leave the U.S., period, after what we went through, because by the time I had been, after I got railroaded, again, this is all detailed in Metatopia, I realized that there was no place for me to live in the States, and this is not an anti-American comment. It's just a statement about if you are a naturopath, if you are an herbalist, and you want to practice your craft, and you want to be true to your art, true to the healing sciences that you're dedicating your life to, there is no place for you in the United States. There just isn't. I mean, I could give you countless stories of medical doctors I've known who have used natural treatment, with their patients, and then have had the licensing board come after them.
Oh, gosh.
So,
yeah,
when you get to a point where you're living in a country where you're going after grandmothers who grow organic gardens and people who sell and deal in raw goat's milk, there's something terribly wrong. So we made a decision. We made a decision that just as far as our work, our life, our profession, there was simply no place for us in the U.S. unless we just wanted to keep this revolving door open where we were going in and out of prison. And just because for the sheer joy of enjoying being incarcerated. Well, I realize this is reaching the theater of the absurd, but that's what it came to. We realized we had to get out. And so if you realize that you need to get out, the next question is, well, then where are we going to go? And I examined Chile, I examined Argentina, I looked at Brazil, but in the end, I think I was moved to come here simply because my friend, Dr. Robert Wickman, had come here and spoke so highly of it. And so we did. We moved completely in 2007 and was living here happily until I was until the government came up with this phony supervised release violation and put me in the news, put me on Parade magazine as one of the world's most wanted criminals.
I saw that.
I was on the Interpol red list. All of this, all of which turned out to be a lie, because if there was anything truthful at all to any of the things that the U.S. government was saying, then you and I wouldn't be talking right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's crazy. So they actually came to your location there in Ecuador and brought you back.
Yeah, I was the victim of an extraordinary rendition, and let me tell you something. There's nothing more frightening than realizing that you're being kidnapped by the most powerful, the largest superpower in the world. It's a very frightening experience.
Imagine. So where did you go when you came back to the U.S.? Where did they take you?
I got thrown in Miami FDC, the Federal Detention Center, for a month, and then I was flown and imprisoned for a few days in Oklahoma City, and then they just kept moving me around. Then in Breaux Bridge, Louisiana, and then finally in Beaumont. And I was gone for a grand total of 21 months.
21 months. I think during that time, I heard an interview with your wife, with Mike Adams, a friend of ours, and that was on Natural News. And I think I heard an interview with her, and it was during that time that you were, I think, going through that. And what year was that? Around 2007 or 8?
I was kidnapped in December of 2009, and I came home in September of 2011. So again, 21 months.
So my question is, I'm just sitting here thinking and listening to that story. Do you have any concerns about the same thing happening again? How do you know it won't? I guess you have no guarantees, do you?
No, because we have reached a point in global governance where truth has no meaning, the law has no meaning, they do what they want, and I get into the, if people want the dots connected for them, I do that in Metatopia, but that is that's the crux of this discipline called PM, perception management. The people that are in charge feel that they're above the law, they can do whatever they want. So it's kind of a very sad time in that sense, and to be on the earth, because you have this kind of global power structure where they again, they're above the law, they're above truth, they create, they do what they want, and live with it.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people. I was just in Texas and visiting a dentist there, a guy who's been on our show, Dr. Stuart Nunley, getting some work done, and I spent some time with Dr. Richard Massey, who's also in Texas, and he was telling my wife Kate and I about a lot of the same situations, and half the guests on our show who are doctors are saying the exact same thing, with their licenses being taken away, revoked, and all that kind of stuff. And it just seems like we're going down a weird path, doesn't it? I mean, it's getting worse and worse, it seems.
Well, I have seen it get worse over the years. I started this very successful multi-level marketing company in 1984 called Consumer Express, which then became Nutrition for Life, and so I've been involved in health. I've been involved in the sale of health products really for over 30 years, and so I have some historical perspective, and I can tell you that yes, it's gotten decidedly worse, and it's gotten really much worse since 9/11, which has really affected the entire fabric of the national scene as well as the global political governance. You've got Noam Chomsky, a very respected political, kind of known as the father of modern linguistics, as well as a well-known political writer. He said that things have become far more tyrannical as a result of 9/11, and it's true, and it's affected the entire fabric of society, but I think particularly healthcare. Yeah,
it seems like you're right. In particular, medical freedom and health freedoms and things like this. In response, or actually in anticipation for today's show, last night on our Facebook wall, I posted a picture, a quote, and it says, quote, "The FDA says it is responsible for, quote, protecting the public health, unquote, by assuring the safety of drugs. It does not take much brain power to see that the FDA's purported mission is nothing more than a hoax to protect the economic interests of the pharmaceutical giants." And that was by Bill Falcoon from Life Extension. But it's just so true, isn't it? This whole idea of the FDA.
It absolutely is. It's I have seen so many different incredibly effective therapies and modalities targeted. It's quite upsetting. And what they do is they go after Actually, strangely enough, the most effective therapies for curing heart disease, cancer, MS, MD, you name it, those things tend to be cheap and expensive. And so in order to create this illusion, in order to sustain a mythology that truly effective cures for whatever it may be are going to be expensive, highly technical. There's a lot of money that has to go into development. All those things that comprise the mythology of orthodox modern medicine. In order to sustain that, they have got to target and go after these very simple things. It's like, for instance, the bioelectronic devices, like the Bob Becker's device.
Yeah, right.
A lot of the things that came out of the work of Raymond Royal Rife. I mean, the truth is that they're really quite simple when you get down to it, and very effective. And they run against the grain of an establishment that doesn't want to cure you. They want to treat you. They want you to keep coming back. They want you to pay for pharmaceutical drugs month after month, year after year. So you can't maintain that mythology.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it seems like you said, these things, some of these technologies are so simple. And I mean, we talk to people that do zappers, and I know you have written some stuff about the Russian zapper. And a lot of these things are just so relatively simple. And Bob Beck, his zappers, and I think that they're finally starting to realize that people are especially with the internet, people are able to take control of their own health, and I think that's why they're coming after people that put out this type of information, aren't they?
Yeah, they're becoming it's a far more virulent environment toward alternatives. If you were to compare this to the children's story, The Emperor's New Clothes, where of course the story ends with a small child basically saying the emperor's not wearing any clothes, and well, I'm sure you remember the children's story.
Yeah.
And everyone is pretending to act as if the emperor is fully clothed because supposedly only stupid people could not see these clothes.
Right.
You remember the story?
Yeah.
Well, I can guarantee you, if they were to rewrite that children's story today, taking into account where our world has gone, the story would end with FBI sharpshooters on the rooftops assassinating the 5-year-old child who spoke up. That's how the story would actually end.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a very good children's story, but that's the reality that we're at. We're at a point where suppression of alternative ideas have never been greater. And this has been around for a long time. One of the things that Alex Tocqueville wrote in 1832 when he wrote A Democracy in America is he was startled by how much intellectual intolerance there was in America. And he notes that even during the Spanish Inquisition, where people were being tortured and until they confessed to whatever phony thing that Rome would come up with, he says even in those days, even during the Spanish Inquisition, there was greater freedom of thought and publishing of books with alternative views than you have in America today. And then when he uses the term today, he's talking, again, circa 1830. I think in the last 180 plus years, I think it's even become more intolerant. And I think that's why you've got this situation in America where although you could say certain people are waking up, I still think it's the situation's pretty dismal. Look, even in my own personal situation, my own in-laws, my wife's folks, I mean, they are, my wife has a sister-in-law that's going through chemo, and she's dying, of course. She's not really doing well. Mm-hmm. And this is what you see because they're totally of the view that, well, the people in authority would never lie to us. Come on, Justin, would never happen. People in authority are honest, and it's a democratic society. They're there for our own good. And people that live with those blinders on, people that live under the belief that there's any truth in the American common narrative are going to suffer. And it's going to get worse here because we're, of course, about to go into a very bad financial crash. I don't think anyone knows the timing. I'm certainly not going to sit here and prognosticate. Right. But I'll tell you, we're headed for, I think, some very, very dark times. And I think it's going to be very painful for those. It's going to be most painful for those who believed the government was capable of telling the truth when they never are.
Right. Yeah, fascinating stuff. And I think it's just imperative in today's world, especially when all knowledge is at our fingertips. I mean, everything is a Google search away. It's time for people to kind of wake up and start to see what's really going on. We are with Greg Caton, and his website is gregcaton.com, altcancer.com, metatopia.org, and a lot of his products could be found on a third-party website. We'll talk about this later on in the show that I don't think he is the owner of, but it's called herbhealers.com. We'll find out later on in the show. And this is just a fascinating episode with Greg Caton. This is episode 234, and we're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back right after this. I have been a huge fan of rebounding for many, many years, and if you want to get in great cardiovascular shape, tone your legs, back, and butt, and stomach, as well as cleanse your lymphatic system from toxins and chemicals, you just have to start rebounding. It's imperative. And not only will it create endorphins that quickly become addictive to you, but it's very low impact as well. It helps to prevent sicknesses and diseases, as well as increase bone density, and it flushes toxins from your lymphatic system. It's amazing. And not only that, but it's a ton of fun also. I do it every single day for about 15 minutes. And we found the best rebounder on the market today in the world, bar none. It's called the Bellicon Rebounder. It's the Rolls-Royce of rebounders, in my opinion. And let's listen to some of what our guests have had to say about rebounding. Robert von Sarbacher is a health researcher and creator of the Mini Beat Protocol. And Robert, what's your favorite exercise?
In general, probably one of the number one anti-aging exercises on the planet is rebounding. So 15 minutes a day is good for that. You can find people who have had thermography scans on cancers, giant tumors, and when they're doing a rebounder, it would start spewing out and shrinking right in front of your eyes, the tumor would, as they're on the rebounder. So it's really good for that sort of thing. It's also very good for exercising internal organs. It's the only internal organ exerciser that I know of known to man.
Dr. Lindsay Duncan is the CEO and founder of Genesis Today. And what's the best way that you think of to stimulate the lymphatic system of the body?
Rebounding is incredible because it's good for the lymphatic system, and there's more lymph fluid in the body than there is blood. And the quickest way and the most effective way to get the lymphatic system flowing is through rebounding itself.
Yeah, because the lymphatic system can't really detox itself, can it? I think you know.
No, the heart, we have the heart, thank you, for pumping blood. And we don't have a heart to pump lymphatic fluid. The only thing that really can pump lymphatic fluid is cardiovascular exercise utilizing the thighs, the thigh muscles. And that's why rebounding and getting a burn in that thigh muscle is so important for the flow and the stimulation of the lymphatic fluid.
Wow, and they even put cancer patients on rebounding, don't they?
Nutritionists do.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but not a conventional doctor. But yeah, I've been learning about rebounding lately. It's quite an amazing thing.
Yeah, rebounding's amazing.
Health researcher and author of Cancer Step Outside the Box, Ty Bollinger. What do you do in your life to prevent cancer?
What do you do to treat cancer? What do you do to prevent it? Rebounding is something that I try to do on a daily basis. A little mini trampoline for those people that aren't familiar with the term rebounding, but it's basically just jumping up and down on a little mini tramp. What that does is it stimulates the lymphatic system. Lymphatic system is one of our primary detoxification systems in our body, and most folks don't stimulate their lymph flow, and so the toxicity in their body builds up because their lymph is not stimulated, and the up-down motion on a rebounder stimulates the lymph flow better than just about any other exercise. So I do that almost on a daily, probably 5 days a week, I would say I average doing that.
And finally, author and speaker and creator of the Longevity Now program, David Wolf. Do you think the Bellicon is the best rebounder on the market today?
Absolutely. I was just with the crew in Europe that does the Bellicon Rebounder, which is an incredible rebounder. My God, what a machine. And it doesn't use metal springs. It uses like flexi ropes. So it's very soft and fun, and it's just great to play with.
Well, there you have it. The up and down G-force actually stimulates every single cell in your body. It's incredible. And as someone who works out in the gym a lot and does Qigong, I think that the best physical aerobic exercise, in my opinion, is rebounding. It's just absolutely incredible for the human body. And the Bellicon is silent, and it comes with a warranty. And you can get them in several different sizes and colors, and some of them have bars that you can hold on to in case you're worried about balance. It's a well worth it investment in your health and in your future. So check them out in our store if you'd like, or you can check out the videos on extremehealthradio.com/Bellicon. Again, that's extremehealthradio.com/Bellicon. That's B as in boy, ELLICON.
100% listener supported. Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Don't forget to join our thriving community for health tips, inspiration, and show updates at extremehealthradio.com/Facebook.
Well, I just got off the rebounder, a little break there. Hope you guys are enjoying this episode. It is episode 234 with Greg Caton, and his website is metatopia.org, gregcaton.com, and altcancer.com. And we are broadcasting live 4 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific, so you can always listen to the shows live as they happen. This is episode 234, and as the lady said, if you'd like to follow us on Facebook, you can stay up to date with all of our live shows, all of our past shows, our archive shows, upcoming shows, inspiration, all that good stuff on Facebook if you're interested in doing that. And so today we're with Greg Caton from, like I said, gregcaton.com, and really fascinating guy, incredible story with the FDA and all that. So, Greg, this Metatopia that you wrote, that's available for free for everyone to read online, isn't it?
It is. The core message is in chapters 1 through 4. Actually, in a sense, it's an uncompleted work because there was a section where I was going to actually explain, kind of give a historical perspective to where we'd gotten by kind of going through my own kind of brief history of medicine. And then I became so busy when I got back, and I've done a lot of interviews. But in a sense, it doesn't matter. The chapters 1 through 4, it is in a sense a complete message as to where we are, how we got here, and I think it's very eye-opening for the average individual that's willing to open their eyes. But that's the crucial thing: are they willing to open their eyes? You're familiar with the work of Dr. Candace Perth, are you? She did a book a few years ago called Molecules of Emotion.
I am, yeah.
One of the things that she talks about is supposedly when Christopher Columbus first came to the Americas and he landed in what is today the country of the Bahamas, the Indians literally could not see his ships. It was so beyond the realm of their experience that they literally could not see the ships. It was something that they just couldn't
even fathom, right?
Recognize. They couldn't fathom it. And I think, in a way, that's where a lot of Americans are. I think that it's so painful to admit how evil, how corrupt things have become, that they're just not able to see it. It's not that the evidence isn't there staring them in the face, but they're like the Arawak, Indians in the Bahamas looking at Columbus's 3 ships and not able to see almost a single one of them.
Yeah, it's almost like there's something going on. People are just so busy, even though all information is available. People can go and get alternative news, but people are so drugged up from the pharmaceutical medications. They're so busy because they're in debt and working all day and they're tired. It's almost like this willful desire to just sort of, put your hands over your ears and not worry about it, right?
Yeah. A friend of mine kind of jokingly says, "Look, I don't think Americans will truly wake up until they take away ESPN and the McDonald's Big Macs."
Yeah, exactly.
Only then will people begin to wake up. I don't know.
I know it's true. It's true. Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of truth to that. As soon as you start taking away the things that people are become addicted to, then people start rising up, right? I mean, yeah, it's just it's just so interesting because to me it's such a dichotomy in today's world where you have these two things going on. All information is available, yet at the same time, we talk to people who say, why isn't it like the 60s and where people were protesting more and sort of politically active and things like that? And there could be a lot of reasons for that, right?
We know why. And the reason is because there has been this pattern of the governance has become more about making people dumber and dumber and dumber. You've got the work out there of Charlotte Iserby, who very articulately indicates how it was that the modern educational system was created to make people as dumb as possible. You've got the fluoride in the water. You got the chemtrails in the air. You've got, a system of media that is completely, there's a reason why they call it programming. Mm-hmm. Jerry Mander makes this point very strongly in his 1976 classic, Four Arguments for the Elimination of Television. You have such maladaptation that's been introduced into the human experience that people just aren't smart enough to connect the dots and realize how far they have been removed from their, if I may borrow from that Russian text, the Ringing Cedar Trees series, Anastasia.
Oh, right.
Yeah, where she talks about our pristine origins. We're not humans anymore. We're nothing like the humanity that lived in this period of time that the indigenous populations around the world and their ancient traditions refer to as the golden age of man, which was well before 6000 BC, when you didn't have all this archonic activity going on. Mm-hmm. I think you're aware of that woman who's a great granddaughter of Dwight Eisenhower. What is her name? Laura Eisenhower.
Oh,
who
right.
Talks about it kind of mirrors the work of David Icke and others who basically indicate, our planet was invaded. We were invaded about roughly 6,000 years ago, and it's been going downhill ever since. This was in the Gnostic text. It's my personal belief why they burned down the Library of Alexandria. You can't have that much truth in any one library without it being subject to destruction. And I truly believe that.
Yeah, it's interesting because these, it's all just a fictitious thing, and they just have to keep the can, keep kicking the can down the road to allow people to keep buying into the lie. I mean, it's almost like a self-preservation thing too with the government and what they're doing. I mean, it's from that perspective, it's almost necessary for them to do the things they're doing. It's just kind of warped and crazy, but that's what's going on.
Yeah, and it's a struggle. It is, especially if you're living in the United States, it's a struggle to escape these various systems of deliberate maladaptation that have been created to keep people dumb. Mm-hmm. It's horror. I mean, once you wake up, it's a horrifying thing to see, and that's why, to answer to comment on your original statement about why don't we have people who are kind of out in the streets the way they were in the 60s. I mean, Vietnam, this whole incursion of Vietnam was nothing in terms of the egregiousness of what the U.S. has done in Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria. You can go on and on and on. Mm-hmm. Nothing. And so, but the reason is because the youth of today simply, and there's other systems that have been done to keep so that people don't speak up about things where they see the government committing atrocities and they don't do anything. Mm-hmm. And that is really the system of slavery that's been created by all of these student loans. It used to be, if you wanted an education, you could go 2 years to a free community college. Then you have very modest tuition in the junior and senior year level. And today they saddle the kids with so much debt. And all you've got to do is, speak up and say, hey, I don't think this is right. I think it's immoral. I think this is unethical. And you watch what happens to you. I mean,
it's not pretty, is it?
No, it's very sad. And in the short span of 200 years, we've gone from the Age of Enlightenment, which may, at least as far as First Amendment issues are concerned, could be probably best embodied in Voltaire's statement, I may not believe a word you say, but I'll fight to the death your right to say it. Mm-hmm. To what? You're for us or against us? This whole nonsense that, if you don't keep your mouth shut while we're raping you, then we'll just take out the butcher knife and slit your throat that much quicker. I mean, this is where we're at.
Yeah.
And it's atrocious. It's atrocious. And, I go to the jungle quite a bit, and I've spent a lot of time with very shamans of different tribes in the Amazon. Some of them, that are in the Quechuan tradition. Some of them Shuari, some of them Kofani. And I can tell you, they know just through their journey. They know how bad things are, and they know about humanoids and other planets. They know all these things through their journeys because they have different ways of acquiring knowledge that go beyond this kind of very rigid Western system of thinking. And, to hear them talk about this is a very, very dark period. You want to know where hell is? You don't have to die to go to hell. We're living it right now. This is hell. This planet is hell.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because for me, I don't know about you, I'm sure there's some sort of parallel here, but in my journey, I've noticed that the more I eat clean, the more I eat healthy, the more I bring superfoods and herbs into my diet and really clean out all the bad stuff, I start noticing over time my mind opening and being able to accept these ideas and start looking deeper into things. And I find a direct correlation between my diet and waking up to all these political things. I'm sure you have the same kind of story too, right?
Well, yeah, but we're surrounded by superfoods. I've got 2,000 uvea plant. Well, you call it goldenberry, goldenberries, and we have quinoa, and everything we grow here is organic. Quinoa and kiwicha. These are the grains that the Incans ate before the conquistadors showed up, and they're all superfoods. Quinoa is a complete protein. It's not a. Well, technically, it's not a grain. It's not a cereal. It's really in the Chenopodium family, but it is a complete, if you use it for cereal, it's a complete food. It's a grain. It's a complete food. And goldenberry, few things on this earth are as nutritious as goldenberries. They're chock full of vitamin C, B complex, fiber, protein. It's an amazing fruit. Do you eat those raw, or do you eat those? I'm sorry, not raw, but dried. Well, you have to. If you're going to sell them, it's easier to sell them dried because of shelf life issues. But as far as me, I have them right next to my house. And they're perennial plants, so they grow year round. I can get fruit anytime I want. I just go into the garden and pick the fruit and eat fruit while I'm walking. Wow, isn't that amazing? I bet you, man, so many people are unable to do that, but what a blessing, right? It is. And again, we don't have winter here. We have a dry season and a wet season, and because of all the earth changes that are going on, they've kind of blended. But truly, we're able to grow things year round because we don't have a winter. So yeah, it is a blessing. Oh, amazing. We're going to come back, take a little break. I want to ask. You just mentioned earth changes. I want to ask you a little bit about Fukushima. We have a listener question about iodine, which actually goes into. I guess that's somewhat related to Fukushima. So we'll get into those types of issues and some of your products. I have a ton of questions about your products. So you got lots of really unique stuff, H3O and all kinds of cool stuff. So we'll be right back with Greg Caton right after this break. And this is episode 234, and we will be right back. The history of heat therapy dates back over 2,400 years, and it was Hippocrates who said, "Give me the power to produce fever, and I will cure all disease." This FDA-approved medical device called the Biomat is a mat that you can lay on, read on, sleep on, do yoga on, sit on, and it can be used on office chairs, massage tables, and the like to help the body heal itself. It's inlaid with 30 pounds of healing crystals using amethyst and a rare black tourmaline, producing negative ions in a healing electrical field. These healing crystals help to restore cellular health by replacing electrons to the atoms, as well as penetrating deep into the body by 4 to 6 inches. What can the Biomat do for you? It'll improve your skin, burns as many calories as if you went jogging for 30 minutes. It improves the immune system by up to 40% or more, reduces stress and fatigue, removes toxins, lowers cholesterol, relieves pain, revitalizes cellular metabolism. It improves cell channels to deliver nutrients and oxygen to every one of your cells. It activates over 3,000 enzymes. And even a Harvard medical study showed cancer cells die at over 42 degrees Celsius. It reduces stress hormones by up to 78%. It allows your body to produce heat shock proteins, which increases endorphins, NK cells, T cells, and lymphocytes. It's very, very low EMF, and it's got a 17-layer technology.
Dr. Mark Serkis is the director of the International Medical Veritas Association. Explain to us more about these biomats.
These biomats are these far infrared mattresses. You lay on them, or you sleep on them, or both. You do very heavy treatments during the day, and at night you sleep at just a nice comfortable temperature. These biomats are like these love machines, comfort machines, and healing machines, because what they do is they just radiate out light, far infrared light, and you can radiate yourself all night long while you're sleeping when you're not doing anything else. And what happens is this light penetrates the body and turns to heat. And the first thing that happens when you bring your core body temperature up 1 degree is your immune system strength increases by 40-50%. They feel when you lay down on them, you guys know, you have one. So it's like the feeling is so good. It's like being in the cuddling with a lover, your wife or husband. It's just warmth and comfort.
How are you using biomats for patients in your clinics?
The cancer treatment using heat is very aggressive, meaning during the day, you sandwich yourself in between two of them, turn it on to high heat, and bake the cancer. The cancer will die before you will. No, this is, you can awesome. Go to England and spend $20,000 and microwave a cancer out of existence. These biomats basically do the same thing. Radiation therapy for cancer is really a solid idea. Unfortunately, oncologists use the wrong radiation. They use radiation that kills you. This biomat uses radiation that can save your life and make your life more comfortable, keep you warm in the cold, and help take care of your kids and all. The list doesn't end.
Yeah, because isn't there some sort of temperature at which cancer cells will start dying?
Right, and it's below the temperature that human cells will die.
So you really like this biomat far infrared technology, don't you?
But it's strengthened me. Well, now the kids are addicted to it. They fight on who's going to sleep on it at night. And it not only changed my life, but it changed my medical practice and my books. This is a great machine for anybody who lives in the cold during the winter. Instead of heating a big house, you just heat yourself. Bottom line, it brings good feelings. Just lay on this biomat, and it gives the strength back.
I can attest to that indeed. Kate and I love ours, and we think you will too. Learn more about these amazing biomats at extremehealthradio.com/biomat. Or you could check them out in our store as well. Again, that's extremehealthradio.com/biomat.
All free shows, all the time on Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Join our community today. Sign up to our email list and instantly get our free gift to you, along with loads of inspirational content and cutting-edge tips to help change your life at extremehealthradio.com/subscribe.
Well, I don't know about you, but I hope you guys are enjoying the show as much as I am. This is just fun to talk with Greg Caton, episode 234, and he can be found at gregcaton.com. And as I said before, we broadcast live Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific. So you can always join the live show that way. And again, this is episode 234. And we're with Greg Caton. And if you have any questions about that biomat, we just sold one earlier this morning. And people just love these things. And I know they're a bit of an investment, but if you have any questions about them, you can always just email me and ask me how we use ours or anything like that. Love to help you out if you're interested in getting one of those things. And as the lady said, don't forget to follow us on our newsletter too. I would highly suggest you sign up for that. We give away a free ebook that sells for $20 on Amazon, Lessons from the Miracle Doctors by John Barron, and he's just a great guy, and there's some really cutting-edge things in that ebook, so we give it away for free if you guys want to sign up and grab that and stay up to date with everything we have going on. And this is just a fun show with Greg Caton. I'm really just loving this, and hopefully all of you listeners are too. And Greg, we had a listener question. Let me just read this really quick for you. I wanted to ask you about Fukushima, so this kind of ties into that. This is from Stella in New York, and she says, "Hi, Justin. Can we ask the guest if his Lugol's solution is good for scars and applying it on stretch marks so it can reduce over time, or if he has a specific product for that issue.
Lugol's is a very important product. Well, I'm going to answer two different phases of it. Lugol's iodine is an important form of iodine, both for topical applications and for internal use. Its most important role is to address halogen displacement. Hopefully, most of your listeners will remember their high school chemistry. Right next to the noble gases on the far right-hand side, you've got the halogens, which are missing an electron in the most outer shell. And the problem with halogens is that the lower weight halogens displace the higher weight. Now, the thyroid is very important. Of course, the blood gets filtered every 17 minutes, all the blood in the body. And if it doesn't have enough iodine, then the body is opened up to all kinds of opportunistic pathogens. So it's very important. And sure enough, what do we have in modern society? A proliferation of what? Chlorine, fluorine, compounds. And what do? They bump out the iodine, which is a heavier weight halogen, leaving the body defenseless. Isn't that sweet?
Yeah.
Anyways, so it's important as a dietary supplement, and it's not just to address goiter, which we're taught in school. They covered back in the 30s when goiter was becoming more popular, so they put it in the salt. Everybody knows that now table salt is supplemented with iodine, but it's not enough.
Right.
It's like vitamin C telling you, well, 60 milligram a day and you're covered, when even an ape living in the jungle is not taking in 60 mg of vitamin C a day. They're taking in about 2,500 to 3,000 milligrams a day.
Yeah.
So that's important for that purpose. But the querence issue was about scarring, and I can't say that we recommend it for scarring. It's kind of an apples and oranges situation. What's more common here is the sap of a tree called sangre de drago. It's used not only for wound healing, it's also used as an anti-scarring medication by the indigenous. It's a real trip to work with. I don't know if you've ever seen this before. You put a few drops on your skin, and you take your index finger and rub it back and forth, and this stuff literally turns from blood red to a light pink and puts a plant latex covering over the entire wound or scar and covers it, protects it, and heals it. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Wow. Do you have that on your website?
Oh, yeah. It's $5.95 for 1 fluid ounce, and it's usually enough for most people because you only use a few drops at a time. This is not something that you need to use a lot of. Just a small amount.
I've heard of Dr. Jonathan Wright talked about this, and I think you might have this product yourself. But I heard Dr. Jonathan Wright once talk about scarring, and I think he was talking about, you may correct me if I'm wrong, was it potassium iodide, where he would rub between the the index finger and the thumb, it would rub potassium iodide on scars. My memory may be not correct on that, but
you may, and that's probably why your listener was making mention of this, because after water, the next biggest component is in Lugol's is going to be the potassium iodide. I just don't think it's as effective for that purpose. If your goal is to remove a scar, I think the Sangre will do a better job than the Lugol's will, and I have no reason to favor one over the other because I sell both worldwide to customers all over the world. We ship from Ecuador.
Wow.
You mentioned third party, but in actuality, we do control herbhealers.com and alphaomegalabs.com, and yes, one is a U.S.-Canadian website, the other is international, and we ship to customers all over the world. I've never dealt with as many customers before as I do now in places like Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Turkey. I mean, you'd be surprised.
Wow.
And that's becoming more common now because you've got Google Translate and all these other things there, where the language barrier is being removed in a way where people are able to communicate using these online translators.
That's pretty amazing. A couple years ago, probably about 2 years ago, I bought some of your. I went on to Herb Healers and I got some. I think it was the black salve. I think it was the one that was a little bit less strong, the one that you don't use for skin cancers. But I got rid of a big wart I had on my forearm, and it just worked like magic.
Yeah, even when even when Jonathan Hartwell wrote Plants Used Against Cancer, it's very hard to get that book, by the way. It's out of print. I have one of the originals, but it's well known that you're referring to bloodroot paste, by the way. It's very well known that Sanguinaria canadensis was even used by the American Indians to get rid of cancer, get rid of warts, get rid of all these other skin anomalies that you go to a dermatologist today and you pay a couple $1,000s to remove. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But again, this goes back to our earlier topic. This is the war against truth. The war against truth, the war against cures that really work, therapies that really work, cheaply, inexpensively, without side effect. This is the war, and this has been going around for a long time. One of the signers of the Declaration of Independence was Benjamin Rush. He was an MD. And in some of his private letters, Benjamin Rush was writing to a colleague and saying, what are we going to do about these damn Indians? They've got cures that work better than anything we can come up with on even the diseases of Europeans. This isn't right. We've got to do something about this. Well, of course, we know what they did. They took the pharmacopoeia and loaded it up with things that they stole from the Indians and made it out like it was and claimed authorship of it. So, Again, we've stolen from the indigenous in more ways than you can possibly imagine.
Now, what's the deal with the bloodroot paste and the difference between that and the cansema? Is it just one more powerful than the other?
The cansema covers a broader range of various types of skin anomalies. I mean, like, for instance, in English we use the word mole, and that word mole in common usage can refer to anything from a birthmark to a liver spot, age spot, skin cancer, So it's cherry angioma. It covers a broad range. So the bloodroot paste removes more of different types of anomalies of the skin, but the cansema is really better suited for skin cancer, where we have something that's going to go deeper.
Can the cansema work on skin cancers that are quite large, do you think?
They can. And, we work with cancers that are, 4 inches by 7 inches, quite large, in that range, quite large.
So you'd have to almost...
various techniques.
I'm sorry, you would almost have to spread it over the entire cancer, wouldn't you?
Well, no, you don't do it all at one time. We have various techniques for pain management, because if you use an escharotic preparation to go after a large cancer at one time, the pain response can be considerable if you don't employ some tricks of the trade, if you will, some pain management techniques to minimize the response. The point is to get rid of cancer, but not be in agony while you're doing it. So pain management is an issue, but the techniques are simple and easy to employ, and we do talk about that on our website.
So if someone were to get something like that for a skin cancer, they can get instructions and all that kind of thing on your website?
Yeah, they can. Or they can always write to us if they have questions, because I understand, the altcancer.com is over 1,600 pages. So people don't have the time to navigate through all that. So they can always, if they have an individual question, they can always write to us at support@herbhealers.com. Our consultations are free to our customers and to prospective customers.
Wow. So now I wanted to ask you about the Lugol's, the iodine. Do you guys sell, I think you guys sell like a really high percentage solution, don't you? More so than you can get in other places?
Right, so 15%. It's
that's right, 15%.
More concentrated. The purpose for developing that is obviously shipping's become a concern. We had postal rates go up here earlier this year, so we're trying to get things as concentrated as possible without affecting the increasing efficacy without, So because of that, because of the fact that you're trying to minimize the effects of this cost of shipping, postage, we have a more concentrated version. I think an earlier question was asked about, you mentioned Fukushima.
Oh, right. I wanted to talk with you about that. Yeah, that goes right in line with the Lugol's.
People have no idea. People, including, I'm sorry to say, probably most of your listeners, have no earthly idea how serious this is. They don't. It's interesting. People have been warning about this for years. You've heard the famous quote by Albert Einstein when he was asked, just how wonderful atomic energy is. Albert Einstein's comment was, that's a pretty bizarre way to boil water.
Right.
And, of course, then you had Walter Russell. Walter Russell wrote his classic in 1957, Atomic Suicide. And basically the point of that book was, if you continue along these lines, you will make the surface of this planet no more life-giving than the surface of the moon.
Wow.
And sure enough, we've reached a point now. I know that people are going to view this as just another piece of doom porn.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is that if Fukushima has the potential over the next 20 years to basically be an ELE, an extinction level event. Now, I'm not qualified. I'm not going to pretend to be knowledgeable in an area that I'm not. I am not a physicist. I am not a nuclear physicist. I am not a person who specializes in that area. But if you listen to the work of people like Dr. Loren Murray, Leuren, and then Moret, or Dane Wigington, between Fukushima and these chemtrails, if one did not know better, one would get the impression that the government's purpose is to wipe out all life on this planet so it can be terraformed for another purpose.
What was the name of that last person you mentioned?
Dane Wigington, D-A-N-E, Dane Wigington, Wigington. He's got a website called, I'm trying to think now.
Well, we can look.
Geoengineeringwatchdog.com or something like that. I think that's what it is. But anyways, you can look him up online. He's certainly got enough YouTubes. But between those two individuals, it's very, very serious what's going on. And
are you still there? Hello? Greg, are you there? Wow, looks like we lost Greg. Greg, Hey, Greg, I'm so sorry. It looks like Skype just cut out for the past 30 seconds right after you gave us Dane Whittington's website.
Why am I not surprised?
I know, right? So I'm sorry. What were you saying right after that?
Well,
Dane Whittington.
Wigington, yes.
Yeah.
He's got a website called geoengineeringwatchdog.com, I do believe. But people can Google him. But to take a look between those two individuals, between Loren Murray and Dane Wigington, if you actually look at their work, I would say the two greatest threats to people's health today is the radiation issues. They're being assaulted by ambient radiation, and governments are doing everything possible to no problem here. Move along.
Right.
Nothing to see here.
Right.
And the geoengineering, the effect of chemtrails, what the chemtrails are doing to people.
Yeah, it's a big deal. We talk a lot about it on the show. It's a big deal. People are starting to wake up, and people are starting to grow. I've heard a lot of people starting to grow their own gardens with tarps and everything to cover their organic food and all that.
It's sad. It's sad we've gotten to the point where anyone has to actually do that.
Yeah, it's amazing. So we had a listener question here in our chat room, a little different topic, but the person says, let me navigate to that here. Let's see here. They said, can we ask Greg if he has any herbs on his website that can cleanse the kidneys effectively?
Oh, yes. I have a link on our website called Amazonian and Andean herbs. It's in the upper left-hand corner. There's an herb here that is called Chanca Piedra. Chanca, Chanca Piedra, Piedra, and in Spanish that's Chanca Piedra. And what it does is it thoroughly cleanses the kidneys, takes out any stones, because even if you're suffering from kidney stones at a subclinical level, you may not feel them, you may not know they're there. Nonetheless, they do limit urinary effectiveness. They do affect the urinary system's effectiveness overall. And amazingly, it's used here in Peru and Ecuador by people in the know just as for maintenance purposes, just to keep it affects the liver, gallbladder, and kidneys, but most particularly the kidneys.
Now, would that be a little bit less intrusive, I guess, than doing some of those olive oil, lemon flushes? This would be a little bit more something you could do every day that's less harsh, I should say? Do you think?
Well, the things you're referring to, which was, of course, popularized by, goodness, what is her name now? I can't for the life of me. The cure for Helen. Okay. All right. Memory out the door. Yeah, I know what you're referring to. Using the Epsom salts in combination with olive oil and lemon juice, and so forth. Yeah, this is more targeted. This is going to help the kidneys, whereas that's kind of used largely for is most particularly affects the liver.
Okay.
If there's one herb of all the hundreds that I know, and I know the medical properties of hundreds of herbs, but the one that I know that's most effective for cleansing and nourishing the kidneys, it would be Chancapiedra.
Okay. And so that's something that people could get. Is it like a powder, or what's the form that comes in?
It's a tea. You just take it as a tea.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's also here available in capsule form, but I think even just you could use it as a tea, and it's an easy form to take. And it's not like it doesn't have horrible organoleptics like it is if you're taking a tea of, let us say, Virginia snake root or skullcap or hops or something that's really bitter. They have a weight loss. We have a weight loss herb. It's very commonly used here called Hirakampuri. It only grows in the very high Andes. A lot of it grows we're talking 3,500 meters up. It's very high.
Wow.
And it's bitter. I understand why this thing has never become commercialized, because it's you have to take it in a capsule form to agree with American taste, because although it's effective for weight loss, it is quite bitter.
Yeah. We don't like anything as Western diets, do we? That's bitter. We like our sweet foods.
Yeah, and you see that when you go in the jungle, and you can tell what the difference between the indigenous people and the Westerners. Some of them will go in the jungle to do a ayahuasca journey, and the indigenous will drink this stuff like it's mother's milk, and the Westerners are like grimacing, like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you'd let me take that."
Oh my gosh, we've heard about that. So I'm looking into some of your products. I see something that I've known about for a long time. I don't know much about it though. The Protocell. I've heard a lot of talk about that. It's a pretty powerful product, isn't it?
It is. I should make mention of something, and that is that the Alt Cancer site is a repository of our work over 24 years. So not everything that's on that site do we carry commercially.
Oh, I see.
And of course you're going to ask, well, then why have it on the site? And the reason is because even if we have carried something that we no longer currently carry, we feel that just as a service to the public, that the information is still important. And if they can't get something from us, they can find somebody else on the internet to buy it from. But at least we've provided the information. And a lot of the vendors for which we are not connected, financially or otherwise, they may have good products, but the information's not out there. So we at least wanted to have the information there, even if it's something that we no longer carry. So that's why we keep things on the site. And if people want to know what we actually sell to the public, then if they're in the U.S., they would go to herbhealers.com.
Herb Healers, okay. And so, I'm looking through that website, and you guys have lots of cool stuff on there. Dental care for people. That's a big issue these days, isn't it? That's a huge issue.
Yeah, we had that combination that we have, the combination of the dentifrice with the H3O, or what we call in the U.S. calcium sulfate solution. It's like they just got out of a dental chair. We get comments from about that all the time.
Wow.
We're very, very proud of that combination because it really, really thoroughly cleans the mouth. And of course, it doesn't have any fluoride, so people can safely brush their teeth without ingesting an industrial toxin.
Wow. So what is that, the potassium iodide? We kind of touched on that a few minutes ago, but it says the Hoxie solution, and a lot of our listeners, I'm sure, are very familiar with Harry Hoxie. What is that product, the potassium iodide?
Well, I'm trying to, where do I start? There's four minerals in particular that, of course, we deal extensively with people in the realm of, we deal extensively with cancer patients, and there's four minerals in particular that cancer patients tend to be deficient in. This has been known about for many years, and those minerals are potassium, iodide, selenium, and magnesium. Those four in particular, others, but those four in particular. The value of potassium iodide, and I think Harry Hoxie was generous in his 1956 book, You Don't Have to Die, when he just said, look, for the whole world, here's the formula. I'm going to give you guys what the formula is. And he did. And it centers around this mineral salt, potassium iodide. And so it works in several ways. One, it provides potassium supplementation to the body. Two, it protects the thyroid from ambient radiation, which we have been subjected to ever since 1945. And even before Fukushima, people don't realize just how much the ambient radiation that's been generated by over 2,000 nuclear explosions that the major nuclear powers of the Earth have gifted us since 45.
Wow.
It does affect overall human health, even if it's not measurable by a gamma or a Geiger counter.
Mm-hmm.
It takes such a small amount of nuclear radiation, especially of these isotopes of these heavier metals, to inflict harm on the human body.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I often wonder, I don't know the science of how this stuff works or the physics of it, but I'm thinking about, just Fukushima, and there's, different plants that are causing issues all around the world. But with a thing like Fukushima, I'm trying to figure out in my mind what happens. Are there little tiny microscopic isotopes or something that travel in the water, or does it travel through the air and damage our health? Or how is Fukushima actually affecting our health? Do you know?
Well, both, but it's primarily through the ocean currents.
Oh.
They're being put. I mean, maybe you've seen some of these YouTubes where, you've got guys out there who actually take a Geiger counter and go out, on a beach around San Francisco, and here. By the way, we have a Geiger counter. We take this very seriously here where I live, and of course, the count, and a Geiger counter. Counts per second. We'll be in the range of 15 to 20, which is a normal ambient radiation level. And you've got guys that are going out on the beaches around, Monterey and San Francisco, and they're registering 300 to 400. It's not safe. I mean, at this point, personally, my personal opinion, from everything that all the literature I've reviewed and all the reports I've heard, you couldn't get me to swim in the Pacific Ocean. Okay?
Wow.
Anywhere. In the Pacific Ocean. You couldn't get me to eat fish out of the Pacific Ocean. We have someone here, we've got expats from all over the world that come here to Ecuador. I meet people from Germany, Russia, France, Australia, New Zealand, you name it. It's really quite amazing. It's quite a melting pot here of in this South American tourist town.
Uh-huh.
And I ran across a woman who is from Alaska, and she was crying she said, I'm getting reports from home. She says, our whole way of life has been destroyed. We can't, the fish we're getting out of the ocean, they've got all kinds of strange lesions. It's, we're seeing a reduction in the polar population. It's affecting the walruses and the seals. I mean, everything is dying. It's like the entire Pacific Ocean is dying. And so there's no way I would eat fish from the Pacific Ocean.
And even maybe down in New Zealand and Australia, it's probably migrating down that way as well, isn't it?
Well, sure. I mean, we have, as you know, Ecuador owns the Galapagos Islands. That's territories of the country of Ecuador. Mm-hmm. They're 1,600 miles off the coast, and it's also quite a tourist attraction. I think Jeff Bezos, the owner, the CEO of Amazon, was there not long ago. Mm-hmm. And we've had friends that have recently come there and said, you can't believe it. You've got all these fish washing up on these dead fish washing up on shore in the Galapagos Islands. Well, Galapagos is about 1 degree south equator. It's on the other side of the equator. And I think some people think that just because of the way that the ocean currents move, that somehow we're protected being on the other side of the equator. It's not true.
Yeah.
Through osmosis, this garbage eventually reaches us all. That's the simple truth of the matter. It's a very small planet we live on. So something this catastrophic, it will eventually affect everyone on Earth. I mean, look what happened. Look what happened in 1986. Look what happened with Chernobyl. That stuff was eventually affected people in China and Japan. The radiation levels were elevated there. When you have a major nuclear catastrophe, give it enough time, it will affect the entire Earth.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, there's so much of this stuff going on. Like, I think even with you guys down there, wasn't there some big, I mean, this isn't nuclear, but it's still an assault to our ecosystem. Didn't you guys have something with Shell oil and dumping thousands and millions of gallons?
Oh, they have done such there's large swaths of land in the Amazon that are complete disasters. I mean, they've just poisoned the land, and it's a problem with major corporations. They're there to make money, but they don't clean up after themselves. Yeah. They're like a little kid, that just cannot be convinced that they should clean up their room.
Right.
They create messes, and this is interesting. I know this may sound tangential, but I think it's quite germane to this discussion. I got a call from a customer recently from Wyoming. Mm-hmm. Who is in the oil field business, said, do you realize that with all this fracking we're doing all over the United States, do you realize how we are poisoning the aquifers? We're going to make it so that it's dangerous to drink any kind of water that comes from the earth. And he was just said, I've got friends that are dying. The Congress passed a law in 2005 making it so the oil companies do not have to reveal, even to their own employees, the components and the toxicity of the chemicals they use in fracking.
Wow.
So, it's
a brave new world, isn't it? Crazy, isn't it? Wow. So they don't even have to reveal.
I would replace the word brave with callous. I really would.
Yeah. That's amazing. They don't even have to reveal to their own workers what's going on with the chemicals they're using. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredibly bad. And but again, it follows the same line of callous behavior as the geoengineering. And the way that, I know some listeners are going to find this hard to believe. Lorraine Murray claims that, and she cites sources, that both Chernobyl and Fukushima were done deliberately. They weren't accidents.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I'm sorry.
Am I ready to whip it out? You betcha. I can feel my package in my pocket right now.
I'm so sorry. I'm not sure. We have a little ad above our chat room that I apologize for that.
No, I figured as much.
Yeah, so she was saying that these things were done deliberately. It doesn't surprise me at all, really.
Yeah, and she provides. She doesn't just say that. She provides who told her, what the actual specifics, why you'd have to be pretty. You have to be pretty ignorant after you hear the facts not to know that Chernobyl and Fukushima were both deliberate.
Wow, that's amazing.
And she gets into why.
So it's just. To me, it just reminds us that we need to take such good care of our bodies, such good care of our health. Do you do anything? Do you advocate anything like, what a lot of people are doing, coffee enemas or liver gallbladder flushes, these types of cleanses and things? Are you a big fan of those things?
I am. I for 20 years, I've been a big. We don't sell it anymore, but we highly recommend the use of the clays, particularly bentonite clay and psyllium husk. People view those things as largely something that you use when regularity is an issue, but it should be used for other reasons, and that is keeping the colon clean. When you've basically polluted the body, a lot of these things kind of end up in the colon where they just kind of come impacted and just kind of sit there and continue to poison you. Once again, the gift that keeps on giving. And so it's really important to in the vein of the teachings of Dr. Bernard Jensen, it's really important to have an eye on keeping the colon clean.
Mm. Yeah, he was a big cleansing guy, wasn't he, Dr. Bernard Jensen?
It's important. It's important. I mean, Buckminster Fuller once was quoted as saying, the problem with being a human is you're born into this world without an operating manual.
That's true, isn't it?
I think there's an element of truth to that. So it's really important. And, it's incredible that among the indigenous, they really do view the body as something that needs to be maintained. In the West, people people give more attention to properly maintaining their automobile than they do their own bodies, which is kind of strange. Here, they don't take things just because they're sick or because they feel ill. Mm-hmm. They take certain things because they realize that the body needs to be maintained.
Mm. Yeah, it's a whole different way of looking at the body. I mean, it's just incredibly different, incredibly backwards, how we look at the body. We have another listener question here, actually, that says, is it normal to wake up with a lot of earwax? What is that a sign of? Do you know? Is it too much toxicity?
There's a whole variety of different etiologies for that.
Earwax.
You can clear it out yourself with hydrogen peroxide. Very simple technique. Just putting hydrogen peroxide in there, and it comes out in a lump, and it clears it out. And then if it repeats itself, then I would probably go to a naturopath that deals in ear and throat issues. But I don't encounter that much. That is an unusual question. I'm not usually caught off guard. That one, I haven't actually heard that before.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've heard that different people say that earwax is the number one sign of food allergies, of being reactive to food, but I don't know if that's true. I've just heard people say that, earwax. So what would you do? Put in like a 3% hydrogen peroxide or something?
Yeah, the stuff at the stores, which tends to be either 3 or 6% hydrogen peroxide, is usually sufficient to clear it out. You don't want to use a higher than that because a person may be sensitive to it. It may cause a caustic reaction. But the stuff that they get in the stores is sufficient to actually clear it out. Interesting.
Now, I've seen that there's a link on, I think it was Alt Cancer, for some information. I don't think you sell these things, but the Russian zappers. I'm not sure if people know what these things are.
It's a very sad story. I had a connection with the manufacturers, most of them who are in a Russian city called Tomsk. It's in Siberia.
Uh-huh.
And I was the largest distributor in the West of Russian zappers. And had a whole variety of different kinds and had all kinds of information on it. And, I guess I could resurrect them, but after the FDA came in and they destroyed everything I had. I mean, I had an inventory of about, $20,000 on these zappers, and they came in and literally destroyed everything. So it's very sad. But actually, those devices work. It's really amazing. I'm amazed that the Russian scientists and medical researchers have been able to develop things that you will never find legal in the West. Never.
Yeah.
For example, I'll give you an example that's kind of points to how corrupt things are. There's a device on Old Cancer that we talk about. We no longer carry it, but we still carry the information, called the Prologue. I had arthritis so bad in my knees, it was difficult to get out of bed in the morning. And my father had the same thing, so I knew that at least in me it was a genetic condition. So we used this device a few times on the knees, and I'm just telling you, it's an outright cure for arthritis. Again, I can say that on the air because it's nothing that I only know the information. I don't carry the devices anymore, but it cures arthritis, and they will never allow that because the pharmaceutical companies want you, if you have arthritis, they want you taking analgesics for the rest of your miserable life.
Oh,
that's
they do.
The goal. That's their goal.
Wow. So does this work with the different types of arthritis, like osteo or rheumatoid?
It doesn't matter. It could be osteoarthritic or it can be rheumatoid arthritis. It'll take care of either one. It's amazing. It's really I'm really amazed at the things that the Russians have developed, but they're able to do it because the major pharmaceutical companies have not had as much impact on their nefarious activities in Russia as they have in the U.S.
Wow. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now on altcancer.com. It's called the Prologue, right?
Prologue 2D. Mm-hmm.
2D, yeah. I think I'm just on the regular one. There's a Prologue.
That was 2003.
Okay.
This is 2014. It's 11 years later, and my arthritis has never returned.
Isn't that wild? Wow. So what did you do? You use it a couple times a day, or?
I used it for about 2 weeks, on and off. Every 2 or 3 days I'd use it for 5 to 10 minutes. And somehow this device is able to detect frequency deficiencies in the tissue and is able to help the tissue rebuild itself and get rid of the source of the arthritis. It doesn't treat the arthritis, it just gets rid of it.
Wow.
Which, of course, is a huge no-no in the United States. We don't cure things. It's illegal to cure things. We need to treat things.
Three things, that's right.
More profitable.
So now I'm looking at metatopia.org, and I see the featured article. It looks like I always just love, maybe it's because I'm a guy, I don't know, I love these little devices and these, like what you just mentioned, the prologue. But I'm looking here at the featured article, and it looks like it's some sort of biphasic low-frequency square wave generator. What is that?
Oh, again, that's not something that we currently sell. Actually, it's very similar to the Bob Beck device. That's something that can be used is a blood electrifier to get rid of various pathogens in the blood, and it also helps cancer patients.
I love that. Yeah, that's about what you can say, right? It helps cancer patients, but I'm sure it's a pretty powerful thing, isn't it?
It is, and what's amazing is the devices are relatively cheap to make, and there's even certain people who have cancer that get benefit from some of these TENS devices. I'm sure you know this. There's a LG Medical Supply. They sell it for pain for pain management, but there's actually a lot of benefit to some of these small electrical devices that cost under $100. And of course, the manufacturers that make them are not allowed to talk about their other properties because, again, our goal is keep people dumb and uninformed as possible.
I know.
That's the goal of our society. So.
Oh, it's so funny. It's so backwards. So I'm looking here too. I just got a lot of questions here. You got one called the cansema capsules. I don't know. I don't think you sell these, but is this a way of taking that?
It's going to replace Tonic 3 because it's more aggressive. We sell it because it's more aggressive and faster acting, and we deal with people who don't have a lot of time, and we deal with a lot of people who, not knowing any better, went through chemo and radiation, and so their immune systems are incredibly debilitated. And so the problem with people who've gone the conventional route is ultimately what they die of is not their cancer. They're dying from the treatment.
They're dying of the chemo, the toxic radiation and things like that. So is this a way of taking, it looks like it's a way of taking the cansema internally.
It is. There are, obviously, this is what we're most known for, there are topical applications that readily get rid of skin cancer. If people think that somehow that's made up, they can go to Metatopia. Chapter 1 discusses how the predecessor to our product, cansema, was announced as a cure for cancer to the entire world in 1858. Process that for a minute, 150 years ago. By none other than the most respected clinical hospital in the world at that time, Middlesex Hospital in London. And then very quickly thereafter, they went ahead and scuttled that whole thing because they realized, oh my God, what have we done? This is going to eliminate a major source of income. So again, these things work. So there are external protocols for getting rid of cancer. There are escharotic protocols for their internal use to get rid of cancers internally. And if people want to see just an unbelievable number of testimonials and photographs, they can go to altcancer.com, click on cansema, and they'll see quite an impressive array of different cancer types from people around the world who've gotten rid of their cancer using this approach.
I'm going to do that. That looks interesting. altcancer.com, and then click on, you said cansema?
Well, if they want to go direct to it, it's actually altcancer.com /cansema, cansema.htm, and they'll go right to it. And there's 9 different pages, some of them quite detailed.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm looking at all these
lung cancer, liver cancer, brain tumors, I mean, you name it.
Oh my goodness, yeah, I'm looking at all these here. Wow, crazy. So what is the do you guys sell on the Herb Healers website? Do you guys sell the H3O on there?
Yes, but it has a different name. It's called calcium sulfate hydronium solution. People can just put the word calcium in the upper right-hand corner of the search field, and it'll come right up. And of course, then the question becomes, well, why do you have 2 different names for it? And it's because they really went after us for selling H3O in the United States. So we had to basically change the name, change certain things, change the labels.
Oh, I see.
For that reason.
And what would? Yeah, I see it. It says here.
Things are amazing. Of all the things that I've encountered, and I have literally traveled the world looking for things that are suppressed, things that are unknown, things that are that are out of the public domain. I have searched the world to become more knowledgeable in the development of my craft, if you will. And I have to say that H3O is probably one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. In terms of what the range of what it will do, how little it costs to make and sell, and just its overall properties, the broad range of its properties is to this day surprises me.
And what would people take that for? Because I'm kind of new to that product.
Oh, goodness. Eczema, psoriasis, snake bite, the healing of wounds as a very strong antimicrobial, taking a diluted portion of it to get rid of acid reflux, improvement of overall digestion. I had chronic bronchitis. I moved from California, or from Los Angeles, which you know can be quite hot and arid, to Louisiana, which is quite hot but very humid. And in 1984, I required a very nasty case of chronic bronchitis. And yes, I would go to the doctor. I didn't know any better at the time. I would go in and get various types of antibiotics to control this. But it always come back. Maybe 3 months later, 4 months later. But the bronchitis, which was chronic and acute, would always come back. And so I'm at the Anaheim Convention Center in March of 2002. I've got to do a trade show, and I'm sure you know what this is like. You've got to be in top shape. You've got a 10 by 10 booth. You need to man it for 3 days.
You got to be on it. Yeah.
So, and here I am coughing all this green phlegm. Lovely. And I'm supposed to be, displaying I owned Lumen Foods at the time, among other companies. So I was there to do a trade show, and here I am coughing up green phlegm, and my wife says, you're not going to be able to perform. You're going to have to stay at the hotel or something. So I said, anyways, I had this H3O. I had never used it for this purpose, but I knew it had a log 6 kill rate, and I knew that there's very few bacteria that wouldn't take out. So I took this, and in sheer desperation, stuck it in a spray bottle. I sprayed it into my mouth while inhaling deeply. And I did that on and off for about an hour. And that was March 2002. And this is 2014, and the bronchitis has never returned.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that's amazing. Wow. So you did that just for on and off for about an hour.
Right. So it's in terms of, to answer your original question, what it'll do is just... it's astonishing the number of things it'll do. But it's all discussed on a page on altcancer.com called h3o.htm, and people can go there and read the information that we have listed there.
h3o.htm. Okay, I'm just going there. Wow, it looks like there's a picture of a lady there at the top with some sort of malignancy on behind her ear there. Wow. That's incredible. Mm-hmm. Wow, so people can read all about it. And there's I would imagine there's just a million different ways to use it, because I guess there's just 1,000 different ways to use this thing.
Yes, it's very, very, in terms of, I'm going to use the layman's term very broadly. In terms of a germ killer, this thing is unparalleled. A non-toxic, non-corrosive, non-caustic germ killer. This is unparalleled. I don't know anything in the universe that is comparable to this.
Seems like it'd be a great thing for families to have if they have kids, have it in the medicine cabinet kind of thing.
As a matter of fact, here's a little piece of our company history. There was a medical doctor, and his name was Dr. Charles Smith, and he was working at the Parkview Medical Center in Dallas, Texas. And when he learned the properties of this, he was using this post-surgically in place of sutures. People who think I'm exaggerating, all they've got to do is go online to Chapter 3 of Metatopia and look at some of the documentation on my case. This is all documented by the federal government. And he was using it because this closed up wounds so quickly post-surgically that Dr. Charles Smith did not need to use sutures.
Wow.
Now, to the untrained, that sounds like an astonishing statement, but
that's amazing.
Hmm?
Yeah, wow. I'm looking here. It's great it says it's sunburn, wound healing, insect bites, halitosis, gas, gingivitis, eczema, disinfectant. Wow, this is just incredible. And
the bottles of concentrate, I think, it's like $11-12 on our website, but it's a concentrate. It will in turn make as much as 8 gallons of solution. So you buy a bottle, it becomes like a family heirloom. It's really it's an amazing thing.
You'd pass it down to your children, couldn't you?
No.
That's funny. So now, if someone were to do that, I know because I've done MMS before, and it sort of goes bad. If you do does the concentrate actually go bad, or does the solution go bad after you mix it?
It has a very, very long shelf life. Let me address that for a second. The MMS, I know Jim Humble. We sell the MMS ourselves too on our website as something called AO chlorite. And there's a lot of things that you can use H3O for where MMS is not, it's not necessary to use because of nausea issues and so forth. The problem with MMS is a lot of people become quite, nauseated with its use. I think you know that.
Yeah.
But still, there are certain things. I think you know that Jim Humble's cured countless cases of malaria in Africa when he was there using MMS. So, you can't dispute his clinical findings.
Yeah, we've had him on the show. It's pretty fascinating stuff. But you're saying that the H3O could be used for a lot of the same issues, but it doesn't give you that sort of nauseating effect.
Correct. And again, I don't want people to misinterpret this. This is not my saying anything pejorative about MMS, because it has its place. I think everybody should have some.
Yeah, it's just I think it would be a great thing to have, just to have in your kitchen, just to have it there in case you ever need it, similar to the H3O. But when I was taking the MMS, I even did the capsule protocol where you mix the solution, put it in a capsule, and that still was pretty caustic for me.
Right. A lot of people and different people have different reactions to it.
Yeah.
Some people have a bigger problem with the emetic effect than others. Some people get very nauseated very easily with it. I know a few other people right out of the shot block. They can take 5 drops in, either the apple cider vinegar or a citric acid solution, and they don't have a problem. So it's people's response to it is very individual.
Yeah, amazing. Well, you got lots of really unique products, and are you adding any more products to the Herb Healers website over time, or how does that work?
We are. There's like 150. There's some of which are quite unknown. There's like 150 other herbals that we're working on adding that come from. Right now, we're working in places in Peru that are so far into the Amazon jungle they're near the border with Brazil.
Wow. So there's so much.
I'm dealing with a plant right now with amazing medical properties that I don't know how to market because nobody knows the scientific name for it. I've talked to botanists even in Peru, and they said just no one's taken the time to classify it. That's when you know you're dealing with something very original, when it does not even have a scientific name.
Wow, it's not even really well known, and people don't even know what it is yet. Probably
very, very obscure.
Isn't that crazy? Wow. So it's so important to keep the Amazonian jungle. I heard that there's only about less than 10% of the Amazon has even been studied and people know about these things.
It's probably true, and that's the sad part. Going back to an earlier point in this interview when we talked about Dane Wigington. Dane claims, I haven't read all of the source extant literature on the subject. He claims that right now that we are currently killing off 200 species per day. We are killing off species we hadn't even discovered yet. Wow. That's how sad our management of this planet is. Imagine that. You see, you've got, 365 days? Okay, so we're killing over 70,000 species of life per year. And again, much of it completely undiscovered. Think about what people do for a living in everyday society. How often do you run into somebody who is an academic in a university and whose specialty is, let us say, botany with a subspecialty in Amazonian plants? Probably not many. There's so few people who work in this area that yes, it's not an exaggeration to say that despite the fact that there are 7 billion of us on this planet, that a large part of the planet is still as yet unexplored. It's hard for people to get their heads around that, but it's true.
Yeah, and then just think about all the potential that's in that Amazon. I mean, I know you know about that potential, and that's why you're working down there. But man, but then we have, like we talked about in the at the beginning, we have the problem with the politics and getting this information out. But I think like what you're doing is you're going about it in pretty unique ways. You're renaming things and getting away with some things that because you're down in Ecuador that I think is
here's
really
the deal. We've got a little market here in Cuenca, and it's called Feria Libre, the free market. And you can go into that market any day of the week, and you're going to see herbalists that are out selling their wares, selling their herbs, giving little lectures. They'll have a little box. They're kind of, their own little soapbox, if you will.
I love that.
Telling people, informing the public what these herbs are good for. Now, if you had that market here in Ecuador in any place in any of the 50 states, it would not be long before all those indigenous people, all those shamans would all be imprisoned, and they'd be given 15, 20-year federal sentences for what they do here. So it's really, what I'm doing here is nothing more than blending in with the culture, the way things are here, the way and I can't say that we'll always be this way, because we know that the hand of global governance the goal is to, control every human being on this planet from the North Pole to the to the South Pole. But that's the way it is now, and it's a delight to someone like myself who has a real love of plants, medicinal plants in particular. It's a real joy to be able to go into a market where people are allowed to speak freely, something that people in the United States, we talk, they hate us for our freedom, our liberty. Yeah. You don't have any freedom or liberty in the United States, and you don't really know that or appreciate that unless you travel.
Yeah, it's so true. I've been around the world. I took a year off and just went all across the globe, and I can attest to what you just said. I mean, once you get out and once you start realizing the freedoms that other countries have, it's really eye-opening to see what's going on in the United States.
It is. So that's so basically what we do here is, I know that there's certain people in the Orthodox community who have tempted to say, yeah, look, they left the United States, they ran tail so they could do illegal things in Ecuador. They're not illegal. This is the culture. If you come to South America, this is the culture. They live closer to the earth. Most people here, most of your indigenous, they grow organically, probably because they can't afford all these expensive soil amendments. Mm-hmm. And life is closer to the earth. This is the way it is. So all that we're doing down here is we're just doing what the natives have been doing here for thousands of years.
Yeah, just blending in. You just happen to be from a different country, but you're just blending in, and you're just more able to do the kind of work you do, and you're more able to, I guess, speak what you want to speak too. Being where you are.
Yeah, there's no way I could, even for the purposes of this interview, your listeners should know that as it has just transpired, this interview wouldn't have happened if I was living in the States.
Right. Oh my gosh, that is just amazing. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Greg, for spending some time with us. Like I said before, I think at the beginning of the show, I've been aware of your work for many, many years and listened to a lot of shows that you've been on, and I just think you're a wonderful guy and just doing some great work. And so if people want to contact you, what would be the best place for the products? Herbhealers.com?
Yeah, or they can just write, if they have a question, it doesn't matter what the question is, they can write to us directly at support, SUPPORT, support at herbhealers.com, HERBHEALERS.com, and we'll answer their question.
So great, so great. All right, Greg, hold on the line there. I'm just going to sign off our live show really quickly. This is episode, let me look here really quickly and make sure I give this right to you guys, episode 234, and with Greg Caton, and you can check that out as soon as I post the podcast. So we appreciate you guys listening live, being in the chat room, and if you guys want to continue the discussion of what Greg was talking about, you can go over to our forum, and I'll create a specific link in this particular show page, episode 234, where you can go on and talk about any of the things that he's mentioning here, as well as herb healers and all that good stuff. So we really appreciate you guys listening live, and thanks so much for listening. Yeah,
I appreciate you having me. It was very thoughtful.
I would love to do that anytime. So I'll be in contact later today.
Great. Thanks so much, Justin. Looking forward to it.
Okay, thanks, Greg.
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Wow, we just had a great conversation with Mr. Greg Caton off the air. Amazing guy. And you know what? I wanted to apologize. There was a time there in the interview, I'm not sure when that was, but, we have our chat room. I had the chat room up live on a different screen, and there's an ad at the very top of the chat room, and this is crazy. The ad is for Urgent RX, Fast Powders, Critical Care, Aspirin to Go. And get this, it says, I don't even want to read this. It says, I'd whip out my package and give it to the boss any day. Click to expand. What a crazy thing. Learn to save your bacon. So I apologize. I'm so sorry for that, guys, for that. And, we're going to be actually changing chat room providers here pretty soon. We're looking at different options, so this kind of thing won't happen again. So I really apologize for that. But what did you think about Greg Caton? Crazy stuff. He's doing some amazing things, isn't he? Greg Caton, episode 234, metatopia.org, altcancer.com, herbhealers.com. And we'll put a link to every single one of those websites on this page, which is episode 234. What an upstanding guy. I spoke to him quite extensively, like I said, off the air, and he's just an incredible guy doing some great things, speaking his truth. And you heard what they did to him, coming and getting him and deporting him back to Miami and putting him in prison for 22 months, I think. And that was his second time. So it's pretty shocking what's going on. Pretty shocking. And you know what? I would like to take this opportunity to let everybody know that there is an amazing resource, an amazing website that I've been going through for the past, I would say, 2 years now. And it's called creditorsincommerce.com. And it's put together by a few fellows, Brandon Adams, Jack Smith, and Gordon Hall. And they've developed this whole way of looking at the world and this technology of looking at law and using the principles of law to subvert or sort of get around a lot of the things that happen in the public. And they make a really, really great case about talking about the public and the private, and what happens in the public is all based on fiction, like your like your name in uppercase letters. People call that the straw man. These are all fictions of law, that these are all corporations, and I'm sure many of you guys know that, but I could go on and on about what they teach over on Creditors in Commerce. And if you guys are interested in learning how law works and learning how the government works and learning how money works, this is just some credible information. I can't recommend them highly enough. I would recommend, let me go to their website really quickly, creditorsincommerce.com. And if you go to audio at the top, they have, I can't even tell you how many hours of workshops they've done. But I would recommend going to the Living Temple classes, January 2009. And you can go through there. You have to click agree. But they talk about money as original issue, the straw man, different things like that. So if you guys are interested in this type of thing, and after listening to Greg Caton, I'm sure you will, because it's impossible to be really into health and into living naturally and not have an interest in this type of work, because the government, as we talked about during the show, is really doing what they can to subvert people that are healing, and they're trying to squash natural cures for things, as evidence of what happened to Kevin Trudeau recently. I don't know too much about that case, but I know they put him in prison for 20 years, and I wish that he had known about this Creditors Commerce website. And like I said, I've been going through their course for about 2 years now. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. So, but I would also recommend Greg Caton's website, metatopia.org. You can read all about his experience with the FDA and the government and what they did to him. Fascinating stuff. And I would recommend going to herbhealers.com. We have no financial interest in their company or anything like that. We just like to put out information, whether or not we benefit financially from it or not. we like to promote what works, and that's what we're about. So whether or not we make any money off it doesn't really matter. If it works, we like to promote it either way. So like I said during the show, I used their Black Salve tonic to get rid of a wart a couple years ago, and there's a link. I'll put a link to that on the blog. I actually did an article about that, and I showed you the before and after pictures. But it worked like magic, like I said on the show. And we have a friend, Bo Wong, who's a friend of ours, and she's using it for a couple different areas of her body as well. At the moment, we lent her our little container, and she's using it. So this stuff is just really incredible, and I would highly recommend picking up some of his products. The H3O looks interesting, because God knows what's going to happen in the future. Who knows if these products will even be available? I don't know what's going to happen. I know that MMS, for example, the company that I was buying my MMS from, which is, what is that name? It was called Project Green Life. Put a link to that. I don't even know if that website's still around. Sorry, I'm a guy here. I can't talk and write at the same time. Project Green Life. And that's where I got my MMS from. And lo and behold, I tried to get that a little while back, and they were closed down. So who knows what's going to happen? Fingers crossed, sending good positive energy and vibes to Greg Caton. And hopefully Herb Healer stays available. So I would recommend picking up some of their products just to keep on hand. Maybe don't open them, put them in the fridge or something so they'll have a long shelf life. But that's what I would do. So that's just my 2 cents. So I appreciate you guys listening. It's been an honor to be here with you today. We broadcast live 4 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific. This is episode 234 on Wednesday, April 16th, 2014. And if you'd like to join the discussion about this, you can always go over to our forum. And like I said before, I will put a link to that on this show page, which is episode 234. And you guys can continue the discussions, maybe even talk about your testimonials or, your experience with the Black Salve or the cansema. I'd love to have you guys share that information so that more and more people can be helped. And we would really appreciate that. And I know other listeners would appreciate what's working for you and what's not working for you, and you sharing that. So that would be a great way to join our community in the forum. And as I said before, all of our shows are free, 100% free. This is 234th show we've done for free, and we rely heavily on you guys for your donations, for your purchases through Amazon. Like I mentioned, there's links to that on the website and our store as well. That's the only way that we can continue putting out this type of information for free. So if you can support us in any way you possibly can, we'd be really, really grateful. And if you cannot support us financially, that's A-okay. Just do us a favor and send this link to your friends on Facebook or Twitter, or send the link to them via email. Whatever you can to support us, we would be so, so grateful. And I think that we mentioned this before, but we're actually going to have to upgrade our hosting, which is a good problem, but it's also it's going to cost us significantly more. We're paying $10 a month for hosting right now, and as many of you know, our website completely crashed a little while ago for about 4 days. So we need to upgrade our hosting, and the company that we're considering going with is going to be charging $350 a month. So the expenses are adding up, and we are going to get some more microphones and expand every way we possibly can to get more and more information out. So your donations are just really, really appreciated. So if you can do that, that would be great. But in any event, I hope you guys are doing well today. This is episode 234. Pass it on to your friends. Share it with whoever you'd like. Anybody who's got maybe skin cancer or any kind of health issue, please share it with them. And it's been an honor to be here with you today. We appreciate you so, so much, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode. It's time to go for now, but our mission does not end with this show. Justin and Kate will be back with another interview packed full of ideas, discoveries, and unique ways to regain your health.
Head on over to extremehealthradio.com/subscribe and instantly download our free gift too that contains cutting-edge strategies to start making healthy lifestyle changes today.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even as you educate yourself in the field of live food nutrition and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers or listeners medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition.